I have a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
What's up, my fellow dreamers, doers, achievers? This is episode number 13 of the Dream Big & Co. podcast. And before we get into it, I would like to go over some housekeeping things in terms of what went on in the episode. So, in the background, you'll hear some noises, some bells, birds, water, trees, wind, but the great thing about that is it adds to the element of the things we were talking about, and it truly aligns in a way with what we were going over, and it actually was a nice noise in the background to have, so hopefully you don't get affected too much by that. And there was around the 20-minute mark to the 30-minute mark some clinging and some other noises and people talking in the background, but it's not very high in volume, so everything should be okay, but I just wanted to note that. But to get into it, the quote for today's episode is by Bob Parsons when he said, "When you're ready to quit, you are closer than you think." When you're ready to quit, you are closer than you think. And to talk about our sponsors, this episode is sponsored and brought to you by StuNited. This app is for students seeking to be matched and connected based on their academic skill sets. Struggling in English, but good in science, StuNited will provide you with a card stack of other users to swipe on. Swipe right on students that complement your skills and find your StuMate today. You can find StuNited on the App Store. Android is coming soon. On social media at StuNited app, and even check out their new, improved, redesigned website at www.stunitedapp.com. And the next sponsor for this episode is Tech Roots Academy. Tech Roots is beyond a fabulous company that goes to schools, libraries, and conducts camps in which they teach young kids the basics of computer programming, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and even more. They already have 65 locations and have helped 3,000 plus students in only 2 years' time. The founders saw a lack of education in computer programming within the educational system, so they're technically filling that gap and solving that problem by educating children as much as possible and making sure those skills are rooted, just like their name, rooted, in them throughout their lives. You can find Tech Roots Academy at techrootsacademy.com and on social media at tech_roots. In terms of today's episode and getting into what we talked about, this person is truly a great soul. He's very authentic and honest in what he does, and you'll see, just like this episode gets more into a flow and more into a deep conversation as we go, so has he in his life. He has completely changed and evolved as he's gotten older, and it's awesome to see that. It's great to see where he's at, where his mind's at, and he applies everything he's experienced, learned, and can talk about in this episode. So beyond grateful for having him on, and I'm sure, I know that the listeners, you guys will love it. So enjoy this conversation, this episode, and have a good one.
Honestly, listening to all my favorite, my idols, doing podcasts is just, so inspirational to hear them and, see, listen to their authentic side.
Yeah.
And, really grasp, get a grasp at that.
That's the great thing about podcasting is, one, you get, the truth out of the person. You get their, honest self. And in a day and age when there's so much misinformation and, fake stuff out there, it's good to just hear people talk.
There's Instagram, there's Snapchat, there's YouTube, these little clips where you get a glimpse of something that is just so small, but then you listen to an hour podcast.
Yeah.
That's a different story because you could really get a sense of who someone is and who someone, what they're about, just by listening to what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. But in a leeway, in a sense, into being your most true, authentic self, I think that's something we can touch on to start.
For sure.
Which is what you're truly doing now and evolving and becoming is being your most true, authentic self on your YouTube channel, just going about your day when being around people. Would you want to talk about what it was before that and then what it's like now?
Absolutely.
Being your like most true, authentic self, not worrying about other people's opinions.
That's huge, and that's amazing. That's an amazing way to start. That's a good leeway because not growing up, but being like a 16-year-old kid, a 15-year-old kid, all I wanted to do was get bigger and become physically stronger and more attracted to girls, look bigger than the other guys around me. So I really dove into bodybuilding and like powerlifting in this really intense way of training, and it was all about just getting huge. And so that's what I was doing for the majority of my like late teens, like 16 to like 19. Now I'm 19 years old, and it's crazy how the way of my training and the way I'm going about this stuff is just shifting. Instead of having it be very egotistical and very egocentric, where I'm just training to look good for someone else or look good for my ego, I'm really diving into what I can do to grow as a person and do something that is going to be beneficial to me as a person. And that's why now I'm really stepping away from the act of bodybuilding for others and doing stuff for myself.
Yeah. And not only in what I've seen or in what you've just said is you changed your body, but you also are changing your mind as well.
Yeah.
You know, subduing the big ego that's always present in our lives. And would you even want to touch on that too? Because I really want to get into the other things that you've changed mentally, because it's amazing. But just starting off with the ego itself, how much has letting that go helped you so far?
I think that's huge because in high school, like I said, starting at 15, 16 years old, being attached to my ego and really letting that take over my actions, really letting that take over what I was doing every single day, what I was thinking in my mind, like about like other people's opinions, and always just letting that take over me. That was huge because it affected all my actions. I was lifting every single day for hours in the gym, hours upon hours, and I mean, it was fun for me because it was a game. Like we talked about that earlier. The ego could really take over you in a way that is like a game, because you're always trying to beat it and you're always trying to do what you can to just win in a sense. But at the end of the day, it's not a game that you're going to win or lose. It's something that you just have to let go of.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, like nowadays, and like I'm starting to come to realization where it's not like I'm going to win this game, or it's not that I'm going to lose this game, it's just something I have to let go of. And when I realized that, nowadays I'm just working on myself. I'm working on growing as a person and really diving into what I can do to align my actions to my ambitions and my goals, and also just in order to grow and evolve.
Yeah. And one thing that really stuck out to me was the word when you said it, let it go.
Yeah.
I really want to get into how you've been so vulnerable lately with your YouTube videos and just like being a person in general. How has letting go and just like dropping all that like undue concern, just like unnecessary weight, helped catapult you into this evolution that you're on right now?
Yeah, I mean, letting go is so hard because it's basically you're surrendering. It's saying, I'm done with this game. I'm done with chasing after something that I'm never going to reach. And that's the decision I had to make. I just said, okay, I'm in this cycle, this vicious cycle that's never ending, and that's the game of the ego that I was playing with these bodybuilding and powerlifting, and always trying to look better than the person next to me, and always trying to change my physique in a way that will somehow make me happier the next day, which never worked. Like, it never worked that way. So yeah, going back to letting go, like, it came to a point where I was like, you know what? I need to surrender to this, and I need to let go. Those are the words that came across my mind, and that's what I did. I said, okay, I'm going to stop doing this for other people. I'm going to start doing this for myself. I'm going to start working on myself in ways that will help me grow.
Yeah.
And that's what I said, and that's what I'm continuing to try to do, to become the authentic person, to become myself and really dive into my authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that word surrendering. Just like complete and utter surrendering to all these things we can't control. And it seems like, yeah, like I should totally surrender. I should not listen to what other people say, but so often we're affected by other people, and we care about what they say more than what we say ourselves, which is unreal. Because you're gonna go through life. You're your own person. You're in your own mind. Why are you affected by what someone else has to comment on what you're doing?
That's all part of the game that we're talking about. Like, the judgment that you're receiving from other people, so-called receiving from other people, like, it's all self-created in your own head. And when you do let go and surrender, like we talked about, that's when you just stop playing the game and it's not in your head anymore. When you're not judging yourself, when you're not creating these self-judgments on yourself, you're not allowing the self-perception of other people judging you ever occur to you. So none of that is ever going to be ever thought of again, and you are just allowed to live freely, authentically, and just liberated from any of the boundaries that you put yourself in, and the boundaries that you thought other people were affecting you from. But it's just all self-created, and when you dive into that, it's huge, because you're just able to live happily, like doing what you want to do and ending up doing what you can in accordance to your goals. And that's just a game changer.
Yeah, and I know as of lately you're big on creating your own reality, and your perception of life is what you make of it. So, in what we were talking about just before and what you said, how has your change in mindset to life is not for me, it's against me, to life is totally for me, and I have the ability to manifest all these things in my life. I have the ability to create my reality through the things I do and thoughts I ponder. How has that, like, total change you've seen and helped?
Going back, like, to answer that question, I just have to go back to what we talked about before, and that was surrounding myself with the right people. And once I made the decision to let go of not just my own thoughts, but the people that were holding me back, I was able to really, really grow and evolve. And once I was just surrounding myself with people that were allowing me to be myself authentically and really be goofy and silly, whatever I wanted to be doing, and creative and whatever it was, that's when I was just able to dig deep and find that authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, even looking around, you got all these plants and flowers. If they're not in this environment where they get sun, get water, are surrounded by all these amazing plants and this great soil, like, if they weren't, then they would be totally dead. Like, they wouldn't be their true authentic self. They wouldn't be as colorful as they are. So that's a perfect thing I wanted to touch on as well, is the importance of your environment and the people you surround yourself with. And it's something that people can't fully realize, but if you have the self-awareness to let go of those people that are holding you back, you're gonna flourish into the person you truly should be.
It's also just getting the best out of each situation. When it's like, if you're in a place with so-called toxic people, you could either be affected by their toxicity, or just take out whatever is the message that they're trying to give you and try to find the best out of it. You know, you in every situation, that's how it is. Like, there's good and bad, but ultimately there's just good, because, in my opinion, because you could just grab the lessons that you learn from the bad experiences and really take the good from all.
Use it as
all the other
opportunity.
ones. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that is so true. I don't think it should be looked at as bad and good. What we were talking about before with finding the middle and like moderation and balance.
Yeah.
You need to use the bad as good and the good as, you know, sometimes humbling yourself.
Yeah.
Just always finding that middle.
Yeah.
And not having too high of highs and too low of lows.
Going back to balance, like we talked about, this is something that is just huge.
Yeah.
Balance, finding the balance in your life is just huge in everyone's life and in my life especially, because the way like what I was talking about earlier, I am bipolar, and what bipolar means is that you get these manic highs and super euphoric highs, and then you get these super low depressions. So what if, like, I can't be living in either of those states, because that's just not balanced. Like, I need to be hospitalized and put on medication in order for myself to become balanced. And that's just something I learned firsthand, because since I have like a chemical imbalance or whatever it is, I have to really learn how to be balanced in all aspects of my life. And that's just a lesson that not just I had to learn, but everyone should learn, because if you're not balanced, then you're not able to align your life and your goals and your relationships and your friendships and everything into accordance with what you want to do.
You're going to be too focused on just one thing.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. It should be little pieces of yourself in each spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there was something, what was something that has helped you with dealing with that mental illness in a sense, and having those manic disorders and
Yeah, for sure.
or periods?
And they're called manic episodes.
Manic episodes.
Where
Totally wrong.
where for a span of it could go from like a week to 2 weeks,
Mhm.
depending on how quick I'm put on medication and
Mhm.
stuff. So when I'm in these states, I've had 4 manic episodes.
Mm.
My first one, I was 16 years old, and I didn't know what was going on this time. So the only thing, my parents didn't know either. So they just ended up putting me into an emergency room, and then into an intensive care unit because they didn't know what was going on, and then into a psychiatric hospital. And at that time, it was crazy. It was all chaos for me because I didn't know what was going on. But I recently just had a manic episode due to some factors, but I was able to use the biggest thing that we were talking about, self-awareness, to hop out of it and really dial into what was going on in my head and really ask myself the right questions to get out of such a crazy state. And it was all about realizing that, okay, I'm having these racing thoughts, which means my mind is going a little quicker than it's supposed to be. And at this point, I was like, wow, I have to do something. I have to use a coping mechanism in order to slow it down and in order to get back to that balance that needs to be happening. And this experience actually happened a few weeks ago, and I was able to do this alone and with the help of my parents, and my self-awareness, to just simply get back to a very healthy state and back on my medication and everything that it was, and I was able to just overcome it.
Yeah. And of course, it's essential to have the self-awareness, and it's something every individual should work on more and try to improve. But one thing in which we'll branch off into is the power of asking for help and like reaching out.
For sure.
You know, I think a lot of times you want to keep things to yourself, and you don't want to reach out for help because you don't know how people will react.
Yeah.
But I was talking to a friend about this the other day, in which he reached out to someone and they actually connected with him, and they had a similar experience, and then from there, that venting helped him so much, and he let go, which we were talking about as well.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I feel like suppressing your emotions in any way, suppressing your feelings in any way, your thoughts in any way, is the biggest mistake you can make, and is the biggest mistake I made in my past. Because when you're suppressing something, it's basically like you're trying to express something and you're just holding it back, which is so unhealthy. And when you have the outlets to reach out to someone, or someone reaches out to you, like a support system in any way, it's just so helpful because you could relate to them. You could have experiences that you could share that maybe were similar to yours. And in my case, when I was having this episode a few weeks ago, actually a friend, she, not even a friend, I didn't know her. Like, I made a post on Instagram as I'm trying to be more authentic on that platform and just posting what is actually going on in my life. She sent me a message and was like, hey, like, I heard you're bipolar, like, I am too. And we just connected, and she helped me so much because she really could relate, and it's something that really helps out, and it's so awesome to have that support.
Yeah.
It can help you so much.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in looking at us at like one theme here is the people listening to this right now, they won't know until they check out your channels and social media, is you've like completely evolved as an individual.
For sure.
And it's amazing to see from like an outside perspective what you have done so far. So just one thing I want to touch on as we keep going and talking is I got to commend you for doing that so far. And, you know, being vulnerable, being aware, changing the people around you, the environment you're in, and just all the things you're going to keep doing. It's just something that has to be admired.
I appreciate that so much because at times when you're on like a platform, for instance Instagram or YouTube, you don't really know that other people are looking at your stuff. Like, you get these likes, you get these comments, but until someone really says it to you in person, it's real. So what I want to talk about that is that what I was doing on Instagram, let's say a year ago or 2 years ago, my Instagram was full of bodybuilding pictures, images of me trying to portray my expertise, I guess, in bodybuilding and in nutrition, and I was trying to train people and help them out with their fitness. But it's something that I'm trying to that I've been growing and evolving out of was being so caught up in my ego, like we talked about. So I transferred my Instagram and my what I was portraying on this platform to being more of myself, really just being more of myself, my creative side, my writing. I started writing nice comments on each of my posts and posting things that were in alignment to my authentic self. And that was just huge. It was so liberating. Like I said, this was a form of expression for me, something that I've suppressed all my life. Like I said, I never shared it with anyone, and putting it on these platforms was huge because I was getting a lot of feedback, and it's just amazing when you just feel liberated from posting something like that. And my YouTube videos, I was recording myself just speaking on raw clips, like just 5 to 10 minute clips of me just speaking my heart out, and then receiving comments and messages back. It's just an amazing feeling, and it's just something that was awesome.
Although there are a lot of things I want to touch on, one thing is what you've done is tap into just improving yourself, and in turn you have all these people around you that actually enjoy what you're talking about and are affected by what you're doing. So our main slogan is improve yourself to impact lives. So you are literally the epitome of that happening in real time in real life. So it's pretty awesome to see. But the one thing I wanted to ask you is, have you started journaling at all?
Absolutely.
Have you? Yes. Okay. So I've been doing it it will be a year on Tuesday. So it's like chapter 1 of my journaling in my life. But how has that helped you, or how has that impacted you in any type of way? Whatever you want to talk about in terms of journaling.
Honestly, journaling and in any way that you're expressing yourself.
Just like recording. Yeah.
Yeah, recording, dialing something down, and really expressing what you're feeling at a certain moment at a certain time. For me, I'm very creative and very visual in all this. So my journals weren't always writing. Let's say one day I had the inspiration to just draw. That would be some type of journal that I would keep, like a journal entry that I would put down. I would draw some, like a scribble or something beautiful, maybe painting or whatever it was. And then one day I would just want to write something because it's just on my mind. I'm feeling it. And then it'd be a video. And this is the kind of journal I would do. And the only thing I could say about journaling is that every moment in time, it's unique. You know, you're never gonna be feeling the same way you were in any moment. In my opinion, I feel like, and when you journal it and when you document it, it's so beautiful to look back at. Like that, you're gonna really understand that since you've been journaling for a year now.
Exactly.
You could document it and say, "Wow, this is how I was feeling." Whether it was a negative emotion or a very beautiful emotion, you could just go back and look at it. It's so awesome.
Yeah, and in giving my take, I completely agree. Not only is it a form of meditation, in which we'll get into, it's a little document. It's a little history book on what you've done so far, which is not only cool for you to look back on to see how you changed, but like even other people. It's like a little biography. I'm big into reading biographies and learning about other people's lives and what they've done, and they're like little blueprint. So like this is your own blueprint for your life. But and getting back to it, do you think that journaling is in a sense its own meditation practice? Because that's how I have used it sometimes, because I get so lost in just typing and just getting my feelings down.
Honestly,
it's that way.
That's crazy how you said that. I never thought of that. But thinking about it now, like what you sparked in my head was a thought that like what really is meditation? That's the question you have to ask. And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is stillness. And when you're journaling and really just expressing yourself in that certain moment, like I talked about, that's just pure stillness in what you're feeling at that specific moment, and really being soaked in the present moment. That is meditation, and journaling is a huge form of that, in my opinion, because you could really just dial into what you're feeling at that moment.
Yeah, and it's the oneness that you like to coin the phrase before. But yeah, I've used meditation so much, and it's something that so many successful people use. So why not like instill it into my own lives?
Absolutely.
Into my own life. But do you have a routine in a sense, or are you just like you always preach, you just go with the flow and what you're feeling and doing, just whatever time of day?
Yeah, to tell the viewers like what I mean by going with the flow.
Yeah.
Like, I try to just live in the moment as much as possible. Like this is kind of a transition in my life where I'm doing this, because back then I was always on my phone, always on Instagram, always on YouTube, always soaked up by content and always soaked up by external forces and other things other than the present moment. Nowadays, I've really just been going outside as much as possible because I love the fresh air, I love the sun, I love the water, I love the trees, and really just soaking myself in the present moment. Like I don't feel the need to do anything other than that. And yeah, so I forgot your question.
Yeah, no, that's you get lost in train of thought. You're in the present moment, just talking like that. No, but I was talking about, do you use it in the morning or night, or like have a set routine? But
absolutely.
Yeah,
going back to that, like I was saying, I'm always trying to be in the present moment, and that is my form of meditation. Like every single day, I don't have a specific routine to sit down and meditate for 10 minutes. What my meditation practice is to just be in the present moment as much as possible, because I believe that meditation doesn't simply have to be done sitting down and closing your eyes. You could be meditating doing other things that are really meditative as well. For example, let's say you love riding your bike. You go outside and just ride your bike for hours, and you're in this sort of stillness and oneness with your environment, and that's just beautiful, because that is a form of meditation. And for me, it used to be lifting weights where I could just
I was just gonna say that.
exactly plug in the music and just feel the moment, feel the vibe of the music, and just really be one with what you're doing. And that is meditation to me. And nowadays, I've been since I got into a car accident, like we talked about. I've been out of the gym for 2 months, so I'm trying to find a way to be active, and I picked up a skateboard, and that's what I've been doing, and that's my meditation.
Yeah, and a lot of the times people have this set in stone visual of what meditation has to be, but you can, like you were saying, make it your own thing.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't need to be, with meditation, what I've realized, and in relating it to what we just said, people don't have to be so self-judging or judgmental of not doing it correctly or not being able to totally not think, because that is not the actual point of meditation. It's just being able to lessen the thoughts that aren't necessary and controlling what is necessary and being more in the present moment, in which we can even get into, which we talked about before this recording of this, is a lot of the times it's not totally like deleting things and making it zero. It's having it there, but like lessening it through your control and self-awareness.
Yeah. And it goes back to also to the fact of like that meditation doesn't always have to be perfect. There's no perfect way to start, and that goes back to everything. That goes back to another thing we're talking about, like starting our platforms on Instagram and on any activity that you want to get into. There's no set in stone way to do it. Just go do it. And that goes with meditation hugely, because you could just Google any type of meditation, any type of yoga, any type of stillness that you want to practice, and just go practice it. Because at the end of the day, there's only progression from there. There's only incremental improvement that will lead to marginal gains after that. And that's just huge.
Yeah. And I like how you said, just take action, which is a perfect flow into this conversation, is just get started.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might not know how to do it. A lot of the times when you approach new things or you're trying out something new, you're never ever going to have the perfect blueprint to doing it, but you can make the progression to get there through the action you take.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that goes back to like just really anything that you set your mind to, you can just go do it.
Yeah.
And just take the action to start going.
Have you, because from personal experience, I've been dipping my toes in different things and experimenting in a sense. Have you tried, because I know you have, I'm not going to say have you, I'm going to say, can you, for the listeners, talk about you experiencing these different things and trying these different things and evolving as an individual even more?
To start off, like, to give some background, all my life I was just experimenting with new things with no fear of failure, with no fear of judgment. Growing up, I was like that. Like, I was growing up playing different sports. It was like, I can name like 15 sports that I just tried, like, recreationally, and then obviously I stuck to one that I liked more. It was soccer, but it just taught me to just go and try it, because what am I there to lose? Nothing. It's just an experience that is going to be a learning experience, and that's something that really stuck with me growing up. Like, I tried different sports, I tried yoga, obviously learning from you. You just, like, anything that caught my eye, I was like, wow, I have to try that. And wow, I have to really just dip my toes into that experience. And that always, at the end of the day, will end up in a win. Because if you end up failing, what even is failure? Failure is a way to, it's a lesson for you to get back up and learn from it. And that's just beautiful.
Yeah. And people, in what we're talking about, they look at other people who've done great things and they say, there's no way I can do that.
Yeah.
There's no way I can learn as much as they have. But the fact is that literally anyone can. We're all human.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as impossible. You know, too many times people limit themselves and they have these boundaries set on what they can do, but that person that has that same mindset should take a note from what I'm about to say, in that it was just practice. It was just consistency.
Yeah.
Anyone that has done great things has literally just put in absurd amount of time with a little bit of craziness, and from there they've reached the pinnacle of where they're at.
Let's talk about that,
Yeah.
because literally what we were talking about before was I just started a YouTube channel when I was, I think it was like 17 years old. I was in high school and I was like inspired by other people doing this thing. I was like, you know what? I've got this motivation. I'm going to go try it out. And I simply just bought a camera and started recording videos and editing them on my mom's computer. And like no one else I knew was doing this. And I didn't grow to become super successful, but I learned a bit of how to talk on camera authentically and really just putting together videos. And ultimately I was inspiring other people. They were telling me, wow, like you were one of them. Wow, dude, you really touched me with your videos. And it's huge because I never thought at the beginning that other people would be appreciating what I'm doing, but just from me taking that step, from me taking that step forward and trying it out, it was just beautiful to learn that, like, wow, you're doing something.
Yeah, that's such a ripple effect that you don't realize can happen. From here, we're going to take a pivot into what we were talking about, into one thing that I wanted to mention, in which we always talk about on this podcast. It always surfaces, but now I'm going to have to surface it by bringing it up.
For sure.
Travel.
Yeah.
I know that you're about to venture off into doing something that not many young kids our age do, but would you want to talk about your experience with travel, how much it has helped you, and then what you're thinking about doing in the months, years to come?
Absolutely. So growing up, honestly, travel has been always has been on my mind. Like, I've always wanted to visit these exotic places. I've always wanted to see the world in any way, shape, or form. Because I'm Colombian, I'm from South America, so growing up, I would take trips there to see my family and stuff, and I would just love being in a place that was away from home. And it was just something about that like stuck with me growing up. Like, wow, when you get older and you somehow get money, you have to go fly, you have to go take a trip. So being that I was an athlete growing up, playing soccer, which was my main sport, I ended up traveling a little bit playing soccer. So when I was in middle school, my team ended up going to Spain, and that was my first time in Europe. It was my first time just traveling away from my family, and just these small experiences of just traveling was just so beautiful, and it stuck with me. So I ended up going to a few other places, back to Colombia alone to play soccer, I went to Dallas, Texas to play soccer. It's so cool. These experiences were amazing. And now that I'm older, I'm 19 years old, going to be 20 in July, I'm starting to realize that it's time to grow and evolve. And saying that, I think it's time for me to step away from my comfort zone, which we have to talk about, and really get away from what I'm used to, which is being home, pampered by my parents, and really just living under their roof. I think it's time. I know it's time. It's my intuitive feeling. It's my intuitive nature that's telling me, dude, you have to really you have to go and make this leap. And I've been toying around with different ideas. Like, I'm very drawn to Hawaii, places like surf areas where I could just surf and be next to the beach. I love that stuff. And now that I'm 19 years old and I have some money saved up, I think it's the right decision to move out. And like we were talking about earlier, there's a few opportunities that I have. I can go to Colombia, where I'm from, and live there, because I lived there before, earlier this year, and it was a beautiful experience. I lived there for about 5 months with my sister, who has an apartment over there. But I think I need some more independence, and I think
some even more discomfort.
Exactly. Yeah. Something really out of my comfort zone that I'm really going to learn from. I know it's going to be a struggle, but I've been thinking about going to California.
Yeah, the West Coast lifestyle.
Absolutely. Like, something that I have never been used to, I'd never experienced before. but I know my intuition is telling me, bro, it's time. Like, I've been living in New Jersey, in Wayne, New Jersey, this place, this town, and I think it's time to branch out. I think it's time, and I'm looking at different apartments and stuff, and I'm going to move to California most likely.
And that's beyond amazing that, like we talked about, the self-awareness to even know where you're at and to go out and do that, very courageous thing. And from that entire experience, when you do it, it's going to be not only life transforming, but you're going to learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Even more. I mean, right now you're learning a lot about yourself,
Yeah.
but in doing that, it'll be a catapult to something great.
Yeah, sometimes when you're too comfortable in a situation, there's no room to learn. There's no room to grow. There's no room to evolve, like I always keep bringing up. Because when you're put in a situation where you're uncomfortable and you're struggling, that's when learning happens. That's when growth happens and true evolution happens.
Now that's a great thing to touch on as well. There's always going to be a form of discomfort or challenge in life, so might as well put yourself in that situation more often, so that you can handle it better, so that you can react to it better, and your mindset will just be equipped with the proper resources, you could say, so when that time comes, it won't faze you.
Yeah, man. In order to get used to it, so that these uncomfortable situations will show up, and you'll be like, oh, you know what? It's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm cool with that.
And not rejecting it, and more like accepting it too.
Yeah.
You'll get more used to that.
Yeah, because if you are living with resistance towards situations like that make you uncomfortable, living with resistance towards anything, it's just not the right way to go.
Yeah, exactly. One more thing before I press the end button, I want to ask you, Nick, in everything we talked about, what is one absurd, unreasonable goal, a dream big for you, something on your bucket list that you want to accomplish in your lifetime, or whatever it is? I always ask the guests I have, just what is one big dream, and what do you want to do to get there?
That's an amazing question. To be completely truthful and authentic in answering that question, I have to simply say that I feel my purpose in life is to inspire others in any way, shape, or form. First of all, I have some tools that I've learned and experienced through my past of helping myself grow as a person in health and fitness, and grow eating the right meals and really helping myself feel amazing in order to live and do what I want to do, and work out in a way that I can feel good and feel strong. And I just feel like my message and my purpose is to inspire others to live in that way of like helping them really shape their well-being, shape their health in a way that will allow them to do that as well. And so what I feel like my purpose is to inspire people to live healthy lifestyles, but also active lifestyles, where they can really dive into helping themselves in their health and their activity so that they can help others as well, and it's just a snowball effect. So my goal, my dream, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know if I continue living in accordance to my values and my morals and living and always learning and growing, I feel like that's my biggest goal, is to just find however way it flows out, going with the flow. It's just all going to come into place.
Yeah, and that's such a unique answer. It's not something someone has said when on this podcast, and I love that so much. A lot of the things we touched on before, you can be prepared, you can prepare and have that big dream and those goals that you set for yourself long term, but a lot of the time life is going to take you off course and you're going to go somewhere else. You're going to go down a different path. So whatever it is that happens, just make sure you're in accordance with your values and your principles and your morals, and then from there everything will fall into place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I really like that a lot. I love that. And can you highlight the social media platforms and YouTube channel you have so people can follow you? I'm sure after listening to this, they're going to want to watch some of your videos and stuff.
Yeah, right now I'm just trying to post as much content on YouTube and as much content on Instagram so that people get a little gist of who I am, and so I could live up to my biggest dream like I talked about of inspiring people. So my Instagram platform as of now that I'm using is just my name. It's at Nick Henao. You could probably post it down.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, so that people can read it. And that's the exact same name as my YouTube channel. And I just bought a new camera, as I showed Ant, and I'm going to be posting vlogs and basically just doing what I can to show you guys who I am more personally. And yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. That was really solid, and I just want to thank you to round it out for being open and sharing your experience and giving some great insight. Absolutely. I really appreciate it, man.
It's real.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and what we are doing at Dream Big & Co., it would mean a lot if you can become more involved with the Dream Big community. You can do so by subscribing to this podcast on any of the following podcasting platforms. We're on 9 channels as of now. Our channel on YouTube at Dream Big & Co., and follow us on social media at Dream Big & Co. That will all be in the show notes. Most importantly, we ultimately do this for you to add value to your lives. So if there's anything at all you like, dislike, or want changed, please rate this episode and leave a review. You can even email us if you're interested at dreambigpodcast@gmail.com or dreambigandco@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a terrific one.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.